All right, welcome in, hockey fans. It's episode 2 of the new Pro Hockey West Report. Scott Strande with you tonight. Nick Maxson up in the upper left-hand corner, and Steven Marsh in the upper right-hand corner. Welcome in, guys. Wow, the season, the hockey season, let's put it that way, did not last very long before it started back up again. We had the Stanley Cup final a week later. We got the draft a week after that, or not even a week. We're into development camps. So tonight, guys, I thought we'd chat about the development camps and what's going on. Steven and I have both been to one this week already. Nick, you're seeing it from a distance. Then I want to talk a little bit about the excitement and the game day experience of the AHL. I had a chance to sit down with Gavin Richards, Vice President for the Colorado Eagles. We'll have that. And then we'll come back and we'll dig into some of the free agent stuff going on and go from there. Sound like a plan?
I like that.
All right, let's do it. Okay, let's jump into this thing. Steven, you get to go first because you went to the first development camp for the Vegas Golden Knights. Anything new, exciting, different from past years other than you're live now instead of doing it virtually with COVID?
Well, yeah, as you mentioned that's something that found out yesterday, actually, that they did a virtual development camp last year. The Golden Knights did. They've obviously, this is the first time in 3 years that they've been able to do a development camp in person, obviously because of the pandemic. And Brendan Brisson alluded to it in his comments yesterday to the media, talking about that they did a virtual camp. And very interesting. I mean, that was good that they were able to do something. But they were back in person, as you mentioned, and the sense that I just got was that they were just excited to be there. I mean, keep in mind, you have basically two draft classes, two draft classes that didn't have a development camp until this year because of everything that's happened. This year, obviously, you talk about people like Brisson, Lucas Cormier, Zach, all these guys that were drafted, in the last couple of years. But this was their first opportunity to have this kind of a camp. And also keep in mind that it was talked about too, that development camp, while it is important that you get the action on the ice and the work with the coaches and everything, there's a lot of stuff that goes on off the ice too. They have a lot of presentations. And that was some things that I didn't know. They do a cooking class, and that was actually something that they did during the virtual camp. They did a cooking class, and they had instructions on different things, a Q&A with a couple of the current players. And the director of player development for the Golden Knights, Will Nickel, talked about that. There was a couple of things that they got from the virtual camp that they implemented now in this back in-person camp. So it was very but the overall sense of it was the excitement for the players to be back out onto the ice and to be able to skate with fellow young hockey players and others that are trying to all get that goal of making the NHL someday.
Yeah, I get it, Nick.
Yeah, and Steve, it's funny how the NHL likes the schedule, honestly, just because you have, like Scott mentioned, a week after the Stanley Cup is lifted by the Colorado Avalanche. You don't really have any downtime, so the 365-day cycle of hockey, I think what NHL wants is finally here. But you talk about how this is the second evaluation time, right? We have the scouting staff, so they've made their picks in 2022, 2021, and it's a reevaluation for them. It's a reevaluation for some of the other prospects, as you mentioned, from years past. How has their progression been made, and how can we measure it? And as you mentioned, there's a lot of stuff off the ice too. The Minnesota Wild up here in the Twin Cities, they've been known to take the development camp rosters, which they had a full skate just yesterday, also another skate this afternoon. They'll finish up with one more tomorrow, where they will take them out on sort of team building things. There's a lot of things that they try to involve within the community. So as you mentioned, a lot of off ice activities and events. Just to also say that this is part of professional sports. You're not just here to play hockey. You're there to involve yourself within the community. So a lot of things happening, and it's a great, exciting time for these young players to get their first taste of being around a professional organization, sometimes post-college, sometimes post-juniors, and sometimes, also sticking around in the American Hockey League. So exciting time for these young players, and a big learning experience, too, for them on and off the ice.
And the other thing, too, is they got a presentation on how to use social media, how to answer questions from folks like us in the media. Maybe if they don't want to answer something, maybe how they could deflect some answers. It seems like some of these players are better at that than others. But or make sure they don't say too much, or make sure that they keep themselves professional when talking to the media members, and all very important skills. And also that the cooking thing, I thought it was very interesting, and and there was a media member that really was pressing about the cooking. He was really fascinated by it from one of the local sites here in town. But it was very fascinating because you don't think about it, but the kids are 18, 19 years old, right? They've just come out of high school in a lot of cases, these young players, or they're, maybe a year or two into college or junior hockey. And a lot of them probably don't know how to cook. They've lived at home, and now they're out in different. They're not at home. They're maybe on their own or with a group of people that they're with, and they may not know how to cook. And so it's all important. The nutrition that you get for yourself, and making sure how you cook food properly, how you can cook a steak. That was one thing you mentioned. That there's different things you can do to. Then that's all that very important skills, life skills, really. In addition to being hockey skills that you might need for yourself, but also skills that could be beneficial for you in your life, and how you live yourself. So that's all valuable stuff too.
Well, let me jump in with a quick comment on that, and then on ice stuff that I saw here with the Avalanche. But a lot of the AHL teams, Steven, you've probably seen this. Nick, I'm sure you have too. Is following a game, before a game, they get their meals prepared for them. Guys will come out of the locker room and grab meals to take home with them. It's usually whatever they prepared. They can take as many as they want. At least that's the way it is in Colorado. So I think that cooking part of it has got to do with nutrition. They don't want the guys getting lazy and going like, yeah, I don't know how to make anything, so I'm going to McDonald's or whatever. The last thing you need from those guys. So I think that's got a lot to do with it. Now, getting back on the ice, I was commenting here in Denver. David Carl from the University of Denver was on the ice helping out. Cam Wright, former Pioneer, was invited as an invitee. Sean Behrens, of course, the defenseman, was a draft pick of the Avalanche. Taylor McCarr, the younger brother and much bigger brother of Cale McCarr, was in town. The joke around here has been that they drafted a guy named Romaine. So if you got Cale and Romaine, when's Iceberg coming or whatever? Bad joke. We call it a dad joke. But anyway, so yeah, the one thing that I was curious about is if you're a guy like Sean Behrens or Cam Wright, you just come off of April winning a national championship in college, and you find yourself, 3 months later in the locker room of the Stanley Cup champions. How does that play? Because you're coming off of being a champion, yet you're kind of going back to being the low man on the totem pole. Any ideas on that, Nick? As what a guy might be going through, and is that difficult or easier, or really doesn't have an effect on what they do day to day?
Well, I think there's a moment of being starstruck, Scott. When you can lift a national championship trophy, especially with some of the competition that Denver had to beat. This was it was a heck of a run by the Pioneers, considering last year was a bit disappointing for them. But then to go into a building that is not that far away from you, and to be able to go into a Stanley Cup winning franchise, I think there's a little bit of sticker shock to that. I do think as a player. I think head coach Brett Larson said it best from St. Cloud. We asked him over the summer a year ago after their run to the national championship. Now, mind you, they came up short, but he goes, we're starting from scratch again. And I think what the players need to understand is, whether it's a college championship, an American Hockey League, an OHL, NHL, everything is from scratch. It gets harder. There's more commitment that's needed. So, yes, it's great to celebrate those accomplishments, but no, it just doesn't come without sacrifice. It doesn't come without hard work. And if there's any sort of message that they should be taking is that, this takes some time. I mean, the Avalanche have had a couple of seasons now where they were probably disappointed to be home early, and that can be motivation for them. So know that it's a culmination of hard work. And that's really what they need to be taking in is they want to get there. Rolling it gets higher from there. And Denver, it's a little bit easier to picturesque when you're looking at the Rocky Mountains, Scott.
Yeah, they're in my back window. If I open the curtain, you can see it quite well. The other thing that I noticed on the ice was they were doing drills today that were drills that you do in peewee hockey, that you do in midget hockey, you do in high school and juniors and all the way up. It was short passes. It was edges. It was all the little basic things that they were doing. So that kind of told me that even at the professional level, knowing those skills, being able for the coaches to see those skills was extremely important. And I could see coaches gesturing and doing things to each other about guys that they saw on the ice. The other thing I thought was we all know the Avalanche are a pace team. They're very fast. And this camp on day one, anyway, was extremely fast. Every drill was done with precision and quickness. And I think the guys knew that coming in, that they had to do that. Steven, from the Henderson perspective, what did you see on the ice?
Yeah, well, I went to the first day yesterday or on Monday, so that was from what I saw, that was just kind of getting a feel for what they it was their first time on the ice and in that sort of setting. So, but as the week goes on, obviously they do more drills that you see in practices and things like that. But as I just said earlier, I just think the excitement of the players. I mean, he certainly Brisson obviously stood out. He's one of the top guys in the organization right now. You got Lucas Cormier, who's top guy. You have, the goaltenders not getting a whole lot of work because they're just doing these little basic drills. But they're going to have, as the week goes on in development camps, they'll have scrimmages where they'll be able to simulate more of maybe a game type thing, and so they'll be able to get more work like that. Nick mentioned that the off ice stuff. They're going to be doing they can do some charity stuff on Wednesday of the camp. So it's good stuff to see that. But as these camps go on throughout the week, they'll get into more drills and they'll get a chance to work. But you had the Golden Knights coaches there, including the new coach Bruce Cassidy, new assistant coach John Stevens was on the ice in the first day. Saw head coach of the Henderson Silver Knights, Manny Viveros, and the Henderson coaches all on the ice. The ECHL coaches with us. So it was a whole, and this really is like a chance for like the whole organization really to get together. I mean, from all the coaches within the organization to obviously all the scouts, the player development people within the Golden Knights organizations, obviously the general manager of the NHL club, the AHL general manager was there for the Silver Knights. So this is really just kind of like a big, really like a summer camp kind of thing. Like we see summer camps where you go away and you get to be with fellow friends and do these different things. It's really what it is. It's like a hockey version of a summer camp, and for these guys that were the draft picks and others that weren't draft picks that were invited by the Golden Knights, like a Connor Ford who played some time with the Henderson Silver Knights last year. He's here in development camp, so it's just a good opportunity for them, and it's just very valuable experience. Even if a lot of these guys don't make it within the Golden Knights organization, maybe they make it somewhere else, or they don't make it. It's just valuable stuff for them in their progression, because they're going to go back. A lot of these guys are going to go back to their junior teams, or they're going to go start their NCAA career. So it'll be even years out before they even sniff pro hockey. And so that will just make them better having these sort of experiences now.
Nick, your thoughts on that? And I want to throw in the fact that Steven touched on invitees that were coming in that weren't draft picks when we get to the free agent stuff here in a little bit. But if you're a guy and I'll just use Cameron Wright, who's had 5 years of NCAA experience, rounded it off with a NCAA championship, big kid, skilled kid. He's going to find himself, I think, a spot either in, I would say he ends up in Colorado in Loveland with the Colorado Eagles. But a lot of times these guys show themselves not only for the team that they're in camp with, but for video for other guys, other teams.
Yeah, I mean, as we see with these development camps, it's about getting in front of a coaching staff. And again, as we all know, the hockey community, Scott, is incredibly tight knit. It's incredibly small. Scouting staffs, they all know each other. It's a lot of similar names. I've worked for a lot of teams. So if you can make an impression on one coaching squad or a scout as an invitee, it opens up doors not just for that organization that you're part of for development camp. Sometimes those conversations lead to other opportunities with other organizations. So it's big for hockey that you have some players that they sometimes are late bloomers, and sometimes it's just they haven't gotten that right attention that maybe is rightfully deserved. And you have college free agents. I mean, for St. Cloud, let's look at Jimmy Schultz, again, a Vegas Knight free agent signing just a couple of years ago. I was in attendance when he was supposed to make his NHL debut, ended up being a late healthy scratch against that game against Arizona in Vegas. But again, NCAA and these development camps, they're a big stepping stone for these young players, and whether it's with that particular organization or not, again, it's being able to make an impression. And that's the thing, right? In Minnesota, we have a high school edition of that where we have an all-star prospects game. And the thing that a lot of, the hockey minds will tell these young players who maybe want to go out and score a hat trick or just try to do too much, it's no, play your game, because they want to see the 200-foot game. It's not about, having the stats. It's about, hey, show us that you can be a multi-use tool. You can be on the power play. You can be in the penalty kill. Yes, you can create chances, but also you can be responsible defensively. That's the sort of, impression you're trying to make at these camps, because that opens up doors not just within the one you're in, but also outside of that as well.
Yeah, well said. Well, we've all had a chance to experience AHL hockey. We're going to have a little special feature tonight that I shot before the end of this past season with Gavin Riches of the Colorado Eagles, vice president, guy that is in charge of making the game day experience. Steven, you had a chance to experience. Nick, you haven't been to Colorado yet to experience it, I don't think. But it is a
my ears are still ringing from the cowbells from the playoffs.
It is a very unique experience, and I think Colorado has set the bar for everybody else to chase. I know the new arena in Henderson will be something that will be something that people will be proud of, and I'm sure they'll try to do the same type of game day experience. But to me, AHL hockey, guys, is why we're doing this show, because I don't think they get enough coverage, yet it's the best ticket in the house. I mean, Pavel Francouz spent time with the Colorado Eagles, right? Now he's the Stanley Cup champion. Jason Megna, who I thought got an opportunity to be in the parade with the Avalanche. Didn't play very much, but he had a uniform number. He's wearing number 12 for the Avalanche. They called him out. He got the reception. He's going to get a ring. He's probably going to get his name on the cup. So, I mean, that's all the stuff that that's not all. That's part of the stuff that you see at an AHL game. And I think over the years, Colorado's done a great job of it. A lot of the players will tell you that the experience in Loveland, although it's only 60 miles from the Avalanche in Denver, it's their own fan base. And I think Steven's starting to see that in Henderson as well. It's 30 miles from or less.
Not even that. Yeah, from Vegas,
but yet they have their own fan base. And I think that's what the AHL is trying to cultivate. And I'm just thrilled that we're part of covering it in the West, at least.
Well, it's a lot more affordable to go to a AHL game, at least here in Vegas and Henderson perspective, to an NHL game. And you mentioned it's great. It's great hockey, obviously, and it's a lot of times the one step right below the NHL, right? And I mean, an example of this would be Logan Thompson was a stud in his first, in the shortened COVID season, with the 2021 season, and he had a really good season. Was the AHL goaltender of the year. Had a strong start to this past season. Of course, then he got the call up to the Golden Knights and was really he's probably going to be on the roster for this upcoming season. Other players that have come through the AHL club that are now stapled on the Golden Knights, like a Zach Whitecloud, who kind of emerged from that, and so you see that all over the league. It's the league is, especially in the salary cap area, you need players that are going to be a little bit more affordable, and you're going to get an AHL opportunity at some point. Certainly that was the case for Vegas last year with all the injuries they had. There was a lot of call-ups from the Silver Knights this past season. So that just shows you how. So the fans in the Henderson got a chance to see players that then made their NHL debuts, and it just makes it all fun that they can be part of that experience.
Nick, your thoughts?
Well, the American Hockey League, it's funny when we look at other minor leagues across pro sports, right? The game day experience oftentimes sets them apart. I mean, we've all are kind of I don't know if you call it used to what the pros do. There's the features, there's the fan interaction, but the American Hockey League, I think, takes it to an entirely new level. The Iowa Wild down in Des Moines, the Minnesota Wild AHL affiliate, does a really good job with their game day operations and really, really getting their fans engaged. Again, it's a non-traditional hockey market down there between Cyclone Nation as well as Hawkeye Nation. It's a college football and college wrestling, college basketball dominated type state. And I can tell you this, the Iowa Wild just not only has the team been successful, but also the game day experience is a big part of why they're starting to develop a pretty good and loyal fan base down there. So again, I have not personally been out to Colorado there, Scott, but again, speaking from my experience at other NHL venues, Detroit, the old Joe Louis Arena was really good. Left me with a really good impression. Vegas, I think, may have the best in terms of light and sound show.
I'd agree with that.
National Hockey League. I mean, honestly, it's quite almost a party every time you walk in there. And if you can kind of create that family type experience and that you're not only enjoying the game, but you're enjoying everything else in the downtimes, that's really the goal. And from what I hear, Colorado and the Eagles do an exceptional job of that.
How many NHL arenas can you go into and you're sitting up at the press box and you've got your drink down there and you got your and it just starts to shake when it really gets buzzing in there. I mean, your stuff just starts to vibrate on the table, and you know that it's like, oh, you're right, Nick. It's like a club, and the Silver Knights, the Dollar Loan Center where the Silver Knights play, we got a taste of that at the end of this past season. Obviously, they're trying to replicate that to an AHL level, and so obviously it's the same people that are involved with the Golden Knights are involved in some of the game day stuff with the Silver Knights, and so they try to replicate that with like a AHL version of the Dollar Loan Center. And if you go in there, it's designed and it's got similar elements to how a T-Mobile Arena looks for the NHL side. So, and I think the other thing too about the AHL is that you can try things that maybe you couldn't work it because it's the NHL. It's you got to be kind of buttoned up kind of thing. You could do the cowbell thing where they ring it for a minute straight. I don't think you necessarily could do that in an NHL game. Maybe you can, and then you could do specialty jerseys. You could do more stuff like that. You can't really do that at the NHL. They can wear it for warm up, but they don't necessarily wear it for specialty jerseys. They can wear throughout the game, and certainly we saw a taste of that with here in Henderson last year, and other teams do it. Teddy bear toss type things. You see that in AHL rinks and other minor league levels too. You don't see that. You obviously wouldn't be able to do that in an NHL team. So there's things that you can do at an AHL level, makes it more fun and stuff like that you wouldn't see at an NHL game, obviously, because they got to be you got to be more buttoned up, and it's the pros, and everything's got to be top notch. So,
well, is it time to take a quick break and visit with Gavin Riches, the vice president of the Colorado Eagles?
I think so.
All right, we'll be right back.
All right, welcome in, hockey fans, to the Pro Hockey West Report. We're here, as you can see, in the beautiful Budweiser Event Center. I got the executive vice president of the Colorado Eagles with me. I've got Gavin Riches. Gavin, first of all, welcome in.
Thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Wow, I mean, this environment is incredible. This is something different for you guys tonight, though, because you're coming in with the deficit of 2-0, which you haven't seen, at least in this playoff. You got 3 at home to get this thing done. Tell me about the environment, first of all.
Well, you know what? It's an environment that we're really, really proud of. I mean, there's nothing like the Budweiser Event Center, and I think for this series, getting our boys back on home ice is it's second to none. I mean, these fans, they bring it every single night. It doesn't matter whether it's a Tuesday night and it's a snowstorm, or if it's a beautiful Memorial Day weekend with 90-degree weather outside. They're out there in the parking lot having fun, drinking beers, and getting ready to cheer on their Eagles.
The players tell me that they love it because they have your own unique fan base for AHL hockey. It's only 60 miles from Denver,
yep.
But yet there's a whole core here that come out every night for you guys.
There really is. I mean, I think it's a fan base that's evolved over the years. You've got a lot of fans that were with us way back in the Central Hockey League. You still have fans that are going to be going into their 20th anniversary season next year with our team. So you've got this fundamental core of true Eagles fans. Then you've got people that are hockey fans that just love the environment, love the hockey, love what they see on the ice. You've over the last 4 or 5 years, you've seen fans come up from Denver, especially now that we've got the development track with the Colorado Avalanche. So you get to see those future stars, which is amazing. So it's a unique dynamic that you've got of a bunch of different fan bases that come together. They rally behind their Eagles, they rally behind their Avs, and they just they love lighting this place up and making it loud.
You know, one of the things that I noticed going from building to building as I do, at least in the Pacific Division, is you guys always have something going on. From the start of the doors opening until the very end, there's some sort of promotion. The Buffalo Wild Wings Minute of Madness is one of them. How did that start?
The Minute of Madness was something that we just kind of played with. We knew the fans were loud. There's a lot of organic stuff that happens in the building, and we just tried to add, another level to it, another level of horsepower with the Minute of Madness. It's something we've been doing now for about, probably 10 or 12 years, and the fans, they own it. It comes from them, and we just put the rally behind it with the video board graphics. But I mean, overall, when it comes down to the promotional side of things that we have going on here with the Colorado Eagles, I mean, it's a team-based approach. I mean, everyone from the ticket sales team to Kevin McGlue, the voice of the Eagles, to our corporate partnerships team, to even the owner of the team, Martin Lind, everyone sits there and says, hey, how do we make sure that it's more than just a game on the ice? It's an environment that is filled with fun and entertainment. It's a place that you can have, families come out to, as well as a bachelor party, and they can coexist in the same environment. So it really is a team-based approach that we take to everything when it comes to the fun here at the Budweiser Event Center.
Well, the theme this playoff season has been Are You Ready? I see the seats are covered again. T-shirts tonight, the Whoop Whoop, which is a big thing here. So, first of all, congratulations on having that going on, but it's important that from start to finish you keep everybody engaged, right?
Absolutely. I mean, there's no place like home ice in Colorado, that's for sure. I mean, you see it down at Ball Arena with the Avalanche, you see it here. It's something that the Colorado fans are proud of, and we just want to give them every opportunity to woot woot and to clap those clappers on their hands and make noise and rally behind their team. So, I mean, we've had great crowds here for the last close to 20 years now when it comes to playoff hockey, and I mean, the team's been in the playoffs for 19 straight years, so I feel like every single night it's time to raise the bar and get loud and have fun.
Well, raise the bar you do. I would be remiss if I didn't talk about cowbells, because the cowbells are unbelievable, and when they get going, how did that start? Because you guys have been doing that for a long time, right?
We have. That one I think is a very, very special place in Colorado Eagles fans' hearts. That started with our founder, Ralph Backstrom. Ralph sat down with the great people at Meadow Gold Dairy before there even was a team and said, you know what would be cool is if we did a cowbell. And from there, everything just went amazing. It's funny, as we went through cowbell night, I think it was one of Ralph's least favorite nights with how loud it got, but the enthusiasm that the cowbells bring, and then we just try to add layers upon layers to it each year. You do a charity bell auction to start giving back to the community. You have fun with video board clips and graphics, and try to make it part of what makes the building special and unique. Each building, I feel like, has a different nuance that really rows the boat for it. Whether it's throwing an octopus onto the ice or whether it's a cowbell, there's things that you just have to organically do with your fan base that they embrace, that they have fun with, and that you just continue to engage with them, because it's a give and take. It's something that you just want to make sure that everyone walks in, and from the second they walk in until the second they walk out, they have fun, regardless of what happens on the ice and the outcome. But tonight, it's going to be a big W, I'll tell you what.
I hear you. Well, you get 3 in a row and you're moving on, so it's not over till it's over, as they say. Final word for me is that, you talk about stability, especially in minor league hockey, but you must be the most stable for this AHL franchise out there. Does it feel comfortable here?
I think it's one of those things that we're always looking to improve. As we've gone from the Central Hockey League to the ECHL to the AHL, you learn from all these great teams that do amazing things. I mean, the American Hockey League is very, very special in the way that they share ideas, they share unique ways to bring fans to the buildings, to engage with players, whether it be virtually like it has been this year or in person. And it's a real open book. So, I mean, our colleagues across the American Hockey League are phenomenal. We can't say enough good things about them. There's some teams that have been around for, close to 100 years. And you learn things from them. They learn things from us, and it's an open book policy. And I think that just helps us all just be that much better and excel at what we do and change things up year to year. I mean, fans change year over year over year, there's generational shifts that you see. So there's pieces that are uniquely Eagles hockey and will be forever. There's other things that you've got to evolve with, and to have a group like we do across the league is very special.
Okay, I'm going to finish on this one. The Pioneers got it done in April.
Yep.
You guys are still battling. The Avalanche are still battling. Do I dare say there could be a 3 national champion type in the state of Colorado in one season?
Hey, there's something special in this Rocky Mountain water, isn't there? There sure is.
Yep. Gavin Richards, thanks for spending some time with me. Keep up the good work here. This is so much fun.
Thanks so much. We'll look forward to having you back for some games here later on in the week, right?
I hear you.
All right. Cheers. Thanks so much.
So we're back. Gavin Richards, the Executive Vice President of the Colorado Eagles. Great visit. Fun guy. Just won an award for Executive of the Year, I believe, in the AHL. And I've never seen it, guys, like this before. I've been covering hockey for 40-plus years and been involved in it for 50-plus years. And I've never seen an experience like this. Game day, game in, game out. 6,000 seats. It's always packed. They started the cowbell tradition years ago. They gave out commemorative cowbells every year, so people have been collecting them over the years, whether it was ECHL, AHL, didn't matter. That was a Ralph Backstrom thing. So Gavin, I thought, did a great job of explaining just exactly what it's like to have a game day experience in the AHL.
Couldn't agree more. With that, Scott, I think it's time for a commercial break. Wouldn't you agree?
I agree. Let's play it.
The NCHC, where the best in college hockey compete, and the numbers back it up. In the past 8 years, 6 teams in national title games that are run of 4 consecutive national championships, 2 Hobey Baker winners, and 46 All-Americans. More than 70 alumni in the NHL with multiple Stanley Cup champions. A leader and innovator in the sport, including a one-of-its-kind pod. One conference, creating champions and improving the game. This is the NCHC.
Really, JR? You think you can still do this?
I'm focused.
You're way too old to hit that target from there.
I've been listening to everything you said. It's been running through my head, locked and loaded.
All right, still got it. Still got it.
Who's old now?
More than 140 live games from the nation's best college hockey conference. Ready for you wherever you are, however you want to watch. Your favorite team is on NCHC.TV. On your phone, tablet, or stream to your TV. Subscribe now to watch the best in college hockey at NCHC.TV. If it's NCHC hockey, it's on NCHC.TV.
All right, welcome back in, folks. It's episode 2 of the new Pro Hockey West Report. It's summertime, and people go, how can you talk about hockey in summertime? Well, I think there's all kinds of things to touch on. We talked about the game day experience. Now we're coming out of the draft. One of the things, of course, that you guys will know with me is I'm fascinated by the transition from high school and junior to college, and from college to professional. I don't think the levels are that far apart anymore. Certainly when I grew up way back when, the levels were much, much greater. And you would not see in the late 70s, early 80s, it was hard to see an NCAA player get an opportunity. And now, as we talk about development camps, I want to get you guys' thoughts on just how important it is in development for a kid like a Sean Behrens. I'll use him again because he played a freshman year, won a national championship. Now he's in the locker room of the Stanley Cup champions. And he's still learning, still growing, still preparing himself to be a professional. Nick?
It's incredibly important. And you talk about the gaps, right, and how those gaps are really subsiding. And that's been essentially the goal for USA Hockey now for the better part of a decade, Scott, is the development process, even in junior hockey, to get to the NCAA level. It needed to get better. And what you're seeing is, I mean, let's even take Cale Makar, for example. Granted, he's a Canadian kid that goes to NCAA hockey, but still was able to grow his game. And let's just say he made quite a splash with the NHL, and might be regarded as probably the best defenseman of all the NHL right now. And that's all coming from the learning and development that sometimes these development camps, they provide. Again, it's systems. Yeah, there's drills. There's skills, sort of developments, but all of it's trying to put the hockey IQ together. And what can some of these kids, like a freshman, like a Sean Behrens, what are they taking back to the University of Denver for their sophomore season if they're going to, right? That's the big thing, is how can I be at this level? And now what is my next step up? Because again, if you're not continually trying to improve your game, somebody else is, and that's a limited spot. Again, it's 20 guys that are on an NHL roster at any given night. There's some other couple, 2 or 3 that are in the press box that are scratches. And if you want to be on the ice, it's all about that development process, all about getting better in every facet of the game. And that's why these are so important, why the development process is so huge, especially for young kids.
I hate to put it into just one or two individuals, but a couple stand out. I've used Sean Behrens, and Steven, I told you about Brendan Brisson. I saw him play at Michigan. Nick, you saw him play in NCAA hockey. But Steven, I saw your clip, the interview with Brendan Brisson, and just from the last 5 or 6 months of seeing clips with the kid talking, he seems like he's become a seasoned veteran right now. I would wholeheartedly expect that he just skips over the AHL if he can and becomes one of those players, maybe third or fourth line forward for the Vegas Golden Knights. Is that what you're seeing as well?
Well, there's a selfish aspect to this, that part of us would love for him to spend a little bit of time in the American Hockey League, so we get a closer. So once they get to the NHL, the access to them becomes a little bit more, because it's the NHL. But we get closer access to the American Hockey League. But and I think the fans would appreciate that too, just being able to see him like that in an AHL setting. But yeah, I think he's somebody that will be somebody that they'll look at really hard. I want to mention another aspect of this development camp too. That's real interesting from a Golden Knights perspective. Yes, the player people are the same. The GM's the same, and George McPhee's still there. But you have a new head coach in the town. You have Bruce Cassidy. You have some new coaches on the staff, and so there were some of the players that were asked about that. Does having new coaching staff, does it give you fresh eyes, a fresh chance to impress the new coaching staff that maybe that doesn't have any feedback from the last coaching staff that was there. So it's actually kind of interesting. We went through the whole Pete DeBoer without a development camp. I just thought about that because the last development camp was 2019, and the Golden Knights still had Gallant then. But it was. But anyway, I digress. But yeah, I think for Brisson's perspective, you're right. I think from when we got to see him make that first start with Henderson and talking to us after that first game to the media that was there, there was people there and that, and then just his being able to talk with us yesterday or Monday about after his first skate up the development camp. He has certainly progressed in that regard, and just the way he conducts himself.
He's gotten bigger too, by the way. He's actually gotten bigger,
and maybe a little bit more confident in himself too. That he has this opportunity in front of him. No opportunity in front of him to do that. So, yeah.
And Steven, and Scott, with these development processes that these franchises have, they're in the driver's seat now. If you want to do a comparison, let's look at Marco Rossi with the Minnesota Wild and how a guy that's got natural skill, he's got a big body, he's a workout machine. In fact, he's kind of a gym freak, from what we all know of, and he almost says it himself. He loves to be in the gym. But again, it's, what does the organization see in these? And that's why these are so critical for scouting staffs and coaching staffs. You can almost make the case that for a new coaching staff to come in, yes, it's fresh eyes, but it also means they maybe don't know the players that well. And so what that could also mean is for a Brandon Brisson, who, as you mentioned, Scott, we've seen him in the NCAA. He's got natural high hockey IQ. He's an effortless skater. He's got an NHL shot. But sometimes if you don't have a little bit more background on a player, and I'm sure Cassidy and his staff we'll be watching film and getting, some background on these players. But again, it's the eye test with coach and staff. Let's say he gets into his 8th game of the season and is struggling. So then it becomes the organization's decision. Do we send him back down? And now it's about, do we worry about confidence? Do we worry about, maybe was he as ready as we thought we were? So these are very important steps from an organizational standpoint too, because you don't want to make the wrong moves with your young prospects to halter that development too. And confidence, skill set, all that's a part of a big equation. And you got to get it right more often than not if you're going to have a contending team try to challenge for a Stanley Cup in the National Hockey League.
Yeah, and it's a balance too. A guy can be really good and looks really good, but then you put him in a situation and he struggles a little bit, and you wonder, did we go too hard too fast on this guy and kind of hurt his progression that way because he didn't get more time in maybe the AHL level, or he's got plenty of time in the NCAA level and his season there, but should instead of rushing him to get to the NHL, if he's ready and he can play at the NHL level, he'll be there, but maybe he'll benefit for being more at the American Hockey League level and he get his opportunity. But at some point you have to make those decisions. So I think Brisson, and you're going to have, after development camp this week, you're going to have a look at there'll be a rookie camp in September. There'll be a little rookie tournament in September as well. That'll be taking place in San Jose. I'm sure he'll be on the main training camp roster as well. And so he'll get probably some looks in the preseason game, and then you can really see where he's at that point. Because development camp is great, and he'll get the experience there. And then, of course, as I said, the rookie camp that'll be even bigger because you'll get to play some other teams and their rookie teams and get some experience there, kind of like a mini season, so to speak. Then I'm sure he'll definitely get some looks in the NHL preseason, and that'll be a different look too. And then you can kind of see where you are, what the team needs are, where the roster for the NHL club looks like at that point. Once all the money stuff ticks out with the free agency and everything this summer, so we'll see. But he's gonna get. I feel like he will be an NHL player at some point. Will it be this season? He may get a look at it this season, but if it's not, that may be okay too.
And Scott, just to add in too, one thing that we have this year that's different is the World Junior Tournament is also this August as well. So you're going to have plenty of some of these higher level draft picks and prospects. They're going to get a good solid taste of international competition. So you could call it maybe an advantage. If they go out and impress, you can maybe say there's a risk of injury too. So some of these, there's a possible negative along with that as well. I'm excited, me personally, that hockey is going to be sort of on its own as far as the best developmental young players in the world on the grand stage. I can't actually wait to see it. The World Juniors is my favorite tournament to watch. And for some of these high prospects, a really good chance to get some quality ice time to play some really good competition on the international stage. And you talk about how development camp and all these things can sort of add up and stack up. And maybe it lands them, again, an NHL spot and maybe a permanent one this season as well.
Well, here's a question I want to throw out there, because right now Las Vegas is the center of the NBA universe because we have the Summer League going on here. And that's basically a chance for all 30 teams. There are a lot of the younger prospector players there that play, or the young players in the NBA, or that are looking to get into the NBA, are all playing like a little tournament style type thing. And so it was kind of got me thinking, could that work at the NHL? Could we have a little summer league kind of NHL thing where you have various teams play each other? I mean, we see it with little rookie tournaments in September or whatever. But could that work where you have like a summer league type thing where you have these young players get a chance to play these kind of like a summer league type game? Maybe you play 5 or 6 games and maybe do like a little tournament thing.
Scott, I'm going to jump in because the Beauty League has entered the chat here in Minnesota.
I bet it has.
Yes, and I can guarantee you, Steven and Scott, for those who don't know, there is a summer NHL league, although it's not really a showcase. It's more charity fronted, and that's what I like about this league. Again, they compete for the John Scott Cup, but it's a 3-on-3 tournament, 4-on-4 tournament. It's the only locker room that, only penalty box that has a keg of beer. Yes, it is a direct quote from the public address announcer. Held at Edina High School, for those who know Minnesota high school hockey, a big powerhouse in high school hockey here in Minnesota. But I think just in itself for that league, I think it has proven it can. They stream it. There's a lot of publicity around it. They're playing it at a high school rink. So if you move that over to, say, Mariucci, you can move it over to Trier Rink in St. Paul, the Minnesota Wild's practice facility. Heck, if you get enough, I do think, I mean, it's $10 a ticket. You get to see 3 games that go about 75 to 90 minutes. So you get plenty of hockey for your money. There's plenty of concessions, so it can work. Again, it's more about how do you broadcast it, and that's where some of these leagues, that's where the money aspect comes in. Steven, is can you get those folks on board to make them believe that there is a return on that? I think there will be in the future, but because we're seeing 3 ice that is down there as part of a summer league, that there is some kind of hockey. We've had different football leagues come and go, so I think sports fans are craving something for summer. The question is, are we ready for hockey yet? I'm not sure we're ready now, but Scott, I believe we are getting close.
Yeah, right. I should have known that the state of hockey would be able to pull something like that off. That's why they call it.
And that's not new, Nick. It gets bigger and better every year, but it's been around for a long time. And when you see some of the names of the guys that are playing there, you just kind of shake your head like. And again, that's the hockey thing, right? I mean, you grow up in Minnesota, and NHLers are just like your neighbors, right? I mean, it's like, I played in the NHL. We use a Matt Cullen, for example, who's now bought into the Fargo Force as a part owner, and Matt is the same Matt that I've known when he was 18. He hasn't changed a bit, even though he's been 15 years in the NHL and a couple 3 Stanley Cups, I think. And but one thing I want to wrap up this on, so we can talk a little bit of free agency, is that it's so unique in the fact that the college players, the free agents, get a chance to be taught, if you will. And Paul Hornstein brought this up last night on our podcast, that they're trying to change it to not development, but educational camp. And it really is that. But if you're any draft pick, right, and you get the chance to go through this, and then you go back to college, I mean, that's just like, that doesn't happen in the NHL or in the NBA. It doesn't happen in Major League Baseball. It doesn't happen in, certainly in the NFL. So this is so unique to hockey. And I think a lot of that has to do with the grounding of the whole sport. I mean, everybody is like, you just walk up to hockey players and talk to them. You don't do that to LeBron James or to, a Peyton Manning back then or Tom Brady. They're so protected, you can't get near them. But anyway, so that's development camps. I don't want to leave California out because we'll be getting there. So, Nick, before we roll into the free agency stuff for a little bit, tell us what you know about that new – and everybody wants to call it Palm Springs. I'm sure they want to kick us all in the head because it's Coachella Valley. And it takes in the whole valley of Palm Springs, Coachella, Indio, all of them. So the Coachella Valley Firebirds are making waves with player signings. They're making waves with their coaching staff, and they're certainly making waves with that brand new building coming on board.
Yes, they are. And it's interesting too, Scott, when you look at, first of all, the Coachella Valley, they don't have any other professional sport in that region. And so hockey is the first one, believe it or not. Now, granted, California, not too far down the road in Palm Desert is there's a famous tennis tournament that happens down over there as well. I believe that's in February, if I recall. So sports are there, but as far as the big major 4, this is their first taste of really any venue they can go to without having to drive more than a few hours to. I think San Diego was about 2.5 to 2 hours south on I-15 from that Coachella Valley area. So, and the arena too, for those who haven't seen it, Acrisure Arena, it's kind of making a throwback to sort of that, what do you call it, that mid-century modern design. Right. I've seen the renderings for it. It looks unbelievable. It's a very California vibe with the greens, and it has almost a rendition of SoFi Stadium, and their interior has a lot of the same design elements in there with your natural wood grains, some of your brass, your metals, and then your concrete, along with your white sub-white tile per se. But it's 11,000 seat stadium. It's got a permanent stage set essentially, I think, to the west side of it. So some of the seating is going to be a little bit goofy for some of the fans in there, but a big stadium. They've got a whole suite level right on top. They've got a broadcast suite as well as a press box. This is looking pretty darn good. And with the construction camp, they've roofed it off. But again, timing, Scott. I mean, we talked about the New York Islanders and how they had to spend a very drastic amount of time on the road to begin the season. They're not telling, or at least they're telling us, that this arena may not be complete until December, which is almost forcing Seattle, now mind you, the NHL affiliate for Coachella Valley, to really think they may start the season in Seattle and use, I think, was it the Seattle Thunderbirds arena as sort of their home games, and they're going to have to move the entire franchise down to Coachella Valley sometime in December. Again, I can't confirm if that's indeed, but that's some of the rumblings I'm hearing. But the arena looks gorgeous. It looks like the Oakview group is really trying to get the community involved. The logo looks unbelievable. I love the logo and the colors that they're using. And you talk about community involvement. They're trying to get together what's looked to be like a floorball sort of league. So really trying to get the community involved with it in a very you talk about non-traditional hockey markets. You know, Arizona was one. Coachella Valley is another big one. So trying to get people excited about the game of hockey. I think they will. And again, some big hires. Dan Bilesma as their first ever head coach to lead it on. And
big move.
And don't tell me that is maybe situated to maybe make some changes quickly if needed, especially up in Seattle. But bigger news, I think, comes with assistant coach Jessica Campbell is going to be the first ever full-time women's assistant coach in professional hockey at the AHL level. And this is fantastic, Scott. I mean, you talk about breaking barriers. You talk about how, as a society, this isn't just a hockey issue. This is, all their other sports, and you could talk about professional spheres as well, and how we're finally starting to see, like, it's not just about, this or that with somebody. It's, if you're the best hockey mind you can coach, we want you behind the bench. And Jessica Campbell, no question, has earned her stripes as she's been a coach and an accomplished coach wherever she's been, both on the domestic side as well as the international side. So I think we're going to definitely be doing a feature on her at some point in the future. Would love to get her views on it. She sounds like she's very humble for the opportunity. I'm very excited about it. She's going to have a really good coach to her side with Dan Bilesma to kind of get her maybe groomed, as well as, try to get her under his wing per se. So there's a lot of exciting things happening in Palm Springs. I cannot wait for opening day. I hope to be in attendance for that, no pun intended. But that would be, it's looking like that desert adventure is going to work out better than maybe some of the other ones we discussed on the show.
Yeah, I think you're right. The beauty of the Pacific West and the Western Division, Pacific Division, I guess we call it, is it's become really a bus league for a lot of places. I mean, Tucson to Henderson, not a big deal. Henderson to Ontario, not a big deal. Ontario to Palm Springs, Coachella Valley, not a big deal. Coachella Valley to San Diego, not a big deal. Steven knows this well. Henderson to Bakersfield, not a big deal. At least that's what I tell him. So when you look at that, that really makes affordable AHL hockey. And speaking of affordable, what a transition into free agency, because it all starts tomorrow. When this airs, it'll already be, in fact, out there. Johnny Gaudreau is a big name. Nazem Kadri, of course, is a big name. Nick, let's start with you again. Who have you heard, and what do you think is happening on the free agency side? Then we'll bounce over to Steven and get his thoughts.
So I'm Steven. I'm probably going to steal your thunder, but just before recording this, Evgeny Malkin signing with Pittsburgh, so avoiding free agency after all, a 4-year deal worth $24.4 million, so $6.1 million average annual value. So I'm not sure Pittsburgh has any more cap room left here. But another big one today. How about shortly after some shots fired between GM Billy Guerin and Cam Talbot's agent? They sent Cam Talbot up to Ottawa for Philip Gustafson, a younger goaltender that shows some promise. He's got 1 more year left on his deal, so 2 years for Philip Gustafson. Good move for Billy G. And the comment that Billy Guerin made, I think, was really good, Scott. And again, very kind of defensive in his position to re-sign Marc-Andre Fleury. But I think when it was made clear that this would maybe cause some rumblings in the locker room, he didn't want any part of that. And he had mentioned in his press conference this afternoon that, he didn't want any drama. He didn't want to be guys going after each other. He wanted guys to be here, and wanted to play here. So he felt it was a necessary move to move Cam Talbot. I know Minnesota Wild fans are already sort of burning at the stake already. Like, what are you doing? What's going on? We like Cam. So we'll see what happens. But the big ones that we haven't heard or have rumblings of, there's been connections to Johnny Gaudreau with Philadelphia as well as Pittsburgh. We've seen him back out east, closer to where he grew up, again on the east coast of the U.S.
Let me tell you, the latest on Johnny Gaudreau is the New York Islanders trying to make room for him. I just heard that.
I would believe that
about 2 hours ago. So that could be interesting.
Yeah, he's going to be a highly, sought after free agent. Again, a very quiet over 100-point season for Johnny Gaudreau. It sounds like Brad Treveling made an announcement here with Calgary, and he just basically pleaded that I did everything I could do to keep him in Calgary. And if you're a general manager, Scott, and you're making a video like that, it almost tells me the white flag is up and Johnny Gaudreau is not returning to Alberta and the Calgary Flames. And so I think Johnny Gaudreau is definitely headed back either to the States, especially out east, again, closer to home. I believe a New Jersey native or New York native, either one. So that's one. Nazem Kadri, I haven't heard any specifics on Nazem. Again, he's going to be due for a pretty big pay increase. He had an okay season, I hear, right?
Let me throw this out about Nazem Kadri and get your guys' opinion on this, because the rumors are there's 3 or 4 teams involved, but one of them is the Arizona Coyotes. Now, Nazem Kadri, do you want to involve you? And again, this is not a shot at the Coyotes directly. I'm just saying, if you're Nazem Kadri, is the money that great that you'd be willing to go that direction? Or would you take, because there's going to be other suitors. So, and obviously it's not going to be the Avalanche. The Avalanche have come up with a game plan that won't include Nazem. And it wasn't because they didn't want Nazem back. It's just like, this is his last payday. This is his first really big payday. And they can't afford him, no matter what they say or what people want them to do. So, but just your thoughts. Would you, Steven, would you do that if it were you and you were Nazem Kadri? Would you make the move just for the money, knowing what the situation is in Arizona with the youngsters, the building, and all of that unstable environment?
I was just gonna say, what a great opportunity for him to play 41 home games in a college rink for your home games. I mean, what other team is gonna give you that opportunity? And then the money he'll make. I mean, it's a win-win for him.
Pretty crazy, Scott. If you're Nazem Kadri, you have a dichotomy at your hands, right? Do you want to play with a competitor that will maybe compete for a playoff team, or do you want your payday? I think he does have a choice there, because the teams that maybe are in that echelon that they will be playoff teams, they just simply don't have the cap room that are going to command his market value. And so if he's going to look at that side of it, he doesn't have a choice. If he wants his payday, he's going to have to look at some teams that have got cap space, such as your Arizona, such as your Philadelphia Flyers. He doesn't really have a choice.
How about a Chicago Blackhawks? They're going to have all kinds of room, I hear.
And that actually might not be the worst thing if you're Chicago or Nazem Kadri.
Who's even on the Chicago Blackhawks right now? I mean, nobody, I don't think.
You have 2 pylons and a board. That's what you have. And no, they're not named Patrick Kane or Jonathan Toews, but I digress. But, you could have an opportunity there to be a mentor, an instant leader. You're going to get paid whatever you want. Now, granted, Chicago is a bigger city. And mind you, Kadri has been in bigger markets, Denver, Toronto, just to name a couple, right? So Chicago might be attractive to him, and they may be willing to pay him a 3 to 4, maybe 5-year deal worth a good chunk of money, just maybe to put some marketing and have somebody's name attached to it. But again, all indications are Chicago was almost trying to, race for a certain prospect next year, Connor. But yeah, it looks like there's a couple of a horse race there down in Chicago. It's very clear with some of the moves that they've made already, Scott. But I don't know. Nazem has got a choice to make. It's a tough one. He's won a cup, so maybe he wants his payday, knowing that, I'm not sure if he can replicate those types of numbers if he goes to another team. So if I'm him, you take the payday and you just go with it.
Yeah, that's the situation in NHL hockey, is you just don't get that opportunity if you really want to make big money. It usually comes with a sacrifice. on what team you go to. The other not really free agent talk that I've been hearing here in Colorado is there a chance that Joe Sakic is able to pull a Patrick Kane away from the Blackhawks and get the Blackhawks to pay half of it so he fits into there. Right now they're at about $14 million, I think, in cap space. They think that Lehkonen is going to require about 4 of that. So that'll put them in the 11, 10, 9, somewhere in that range. So do you go after Manson and try to pick up Josh Manson and then have a little bit left? Or, do you go after a guy like, Patrick Kane? And because what's going to happen with Chicago, what they're doing right now is that they're going to get so low of a payroll that they're going to be below that floor, and they're going to have to pay to get up to it. But so they get rid of them. They do what you're talking about, and trying to get Connor Bedard, which is risky because the Arizona Coyotes have tried that for 27 years.
It's a lottery.
And they've
never
guaranteed. And they've never gotten the number 1 pick. Even
they tried hard last year, man. They tried hard last year. I think it took them forever to get to 10 wins.
And they got third. Yeah.
And they got a heck of a player in Logan Cooley, too. Yes, they did.
Yeah.
Scott, for that purpose, with Chicago, I think, honestly, it's going to come down to Patrick Kane. I think he's earned his accolades to kind of make that decision. I think Chicago would grace again, entering the last year of his deal, again, $10 million in the books. You take half of that, that's $5 million that he'll command for a team if Chicago retains half his salary. But I think it's going to come down to Patrick Kane and whether he wants to stay as Chicago Blackhawk or whether he wants to go contend or go somewhere else. I do think it will be his choice, and I think Chicago would follow suit with that, whatever he decides to do. If it does happen, it's not going to happen sooner than the trade deadline. I don't think you move him before then. For Chicago, again, you're kind of you have empty cupboards right now. And so he's the only real piece you have left that people recognize, him and Jonathan Taves. And so I think if, you're going to probably hold out just from a marketing standpoint, at least to the trade deadline until, they're going to be probably second, if not the last place in the Central Division, also fighting with the last place in the Western Conference, maybe the National Hockey League. And it gives them sort of the narrative that now we can move our superstar and now we're really handing the torch over to this new wave of Chicago Blackhawks. That's the way I see it going. But again, I just think it comes down to the player and what his wishes are, and we'll see come next February.
Certainly earned it. He's got 2 choices, though. It's either going to happen now or it's going to happen, like you said, at the trade deadline, because it's not going to be anything that happens at start of the year. He's either going to want to be settled in somewhere or he'll accept the fact that he's a trade deadline move.
Completely agreed, Steven. What, out of curiosity, if you're Patrick Kane and you have an opportunity to go win a fourth.
Hold on a minute. We've made him Patrick Kane. We've made him Nazem Kadri. He's not going to ever want to be Steven Marsh again.
Yeah. he's the Denny Hawking. He can play everything.
I love it.
But Steven, do you think Patrick Kane, if you're in his shoes, this is a tough decision. Chicago has been the only place you played. You've won 3 Stanley Cup championships with the Blackhawks. You're seeing the moves around you. That's very clear what the upper management is doing here. You're probably looking at a pretty tough schedule. The one piece you had that was successful with you is now with the Ottawa Senators. We're talking about Alex DeBrincat. There's a lot to think about there if you're Patrick Kane. And I guess if you're him, do you decide to move now? Do you request a trade now? Or do you think it's a little bit later in the trade deadline where you make that choice?
Well, I look at an example of this would be I'll go back to the Corey Perry, who was with the Ducks for a long time, and you were kind of wondering, would he have his whole career with Anaheim, winning a Stanley Cup there and all the success that he had in Anaheim. But then eventually he did leave, and he did go to some other teams, and he's bounced around to a few different teams. Has been in obviously some finals, obviously not getting the win. He's trying to chase that cup and seems to always be only losing in lately. But I don't know. I mean, Patrick Kane, he's 33 right now, so I mean he's still pretty young. I mean he's in the upper echelon, I guess, of the league. But I mean 33 is still he still has hopefully some years left on him. And if Chicago obviously is not going to be in a position anytime soon to contend for a cup, so that's the balance. Is do I stay loyal to Chicago? I can be a real leader to these. Obviously, it's going to be a very new, young team probably for Chicago. I'm sure there'll be still some veterans that'll be brought in, but a chance to be a true leader, and probably will get a decent payday. So you have that, or do you want another championship? But you already said he's won 3 already, so I mean that's pretty good. Probably going to be in Hall of Fame contention. If he doesn't, it's not going to. Certainly he'll be looked at as that. He'll be in, yeah, sure. But so I mean what else more can you accomplish? I mean winning a 4th one would be nice, but he's already done what a lot of players never get to do, and that's win a cup. During that kind of era where the Blackhawks won those 3 cups. So I don't know. I mean he's been in Chicago. It's really a tough decision because it's not somebody that's not trying to chase a cup, that you've been with a team and they're not winning and you try to go to a team that's there. He's won 3 already. I'm sure there's an itch to win another one, but what do you do in his situation? I think he probably does. He probably does stay. It surprises me that looking at here, it says the salary is $2.9 million. I mean, it's surprising that he doesn't make more than that. But I think now he probably will get more. And will it be Chicago that gives it to him? Well, I would think that will end up happening, but you never know what happens in today's NHL. But I'd like to see him stay in Chicago because I think the fans need that too. They need somebody that they're familiar with that's been with the franchise, because they're completely, turning the franchise upside down, trying to restart from scratch. But yet, maybe at least have him in there. That's going to be valuable, I think, for the Blackhawks and for their fans, and to continue to have that support from the people there.
Well, I think we've used up our allotted time. We could go on for hours because that's what we do. We talk hockey. It's great, and it's going to get better. I wanted to start this in the summertime so that we had a chance to work out all the kinks and the bugs. So if you're watching, continue to watch, because we will get better. The content will continue to grow. And once we get games going on and get situated and get our guys in the places we want to be, things are going to rock and roll. But there's always stuff to talk about in the hockey world. And Steven and I were trying to put together a schedule the other day, and we're looking like, holy cow, it's like soon, right? Development camp will be over, and then, pretty soon there'll be training camp and rookie camps and all of that good stuff. So stick with us, keep listening in and watching, and hopefully we'll entertain you as we go.